Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about anxiety and what anxiety is, some of the symptoms, some of the studies I found, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. So, first of all, the reason why I wanted to talk about this in my video is because I've noticed that a lot of people have and always have had trouble expressing themselves when they have anxiety, and it's something very hard to talk about, and I've noticed that it's increased over the years. So I wanted to make this video to inform you guys, or at least those of you guys that didn't know about it, and those of you guys that wanted to learn a little bit more about it. Okay, so first of all, what is anxiety? Anxiety is it's a reaction to danger. It's the basic fight or fight response, and it is triggered when one feels threatened or one feels under pressure and in danger. Some of the things that could be an example is going on your first date or your first job interview, or having an exam to the next day. And basically, anxiety is overwhelming and it is constant, and those worries and fears can interfere with your relationships and your daily life activities. So, some of the basic questions to ask yourself or someone if you're not sure if they have anxiety is, are you constantly tensed or worried or on edge? Another question can be, does your anxiety interfere with your work or school or family responsibilities? Another question can be, do you believe something bad will happen if things are done a certain way? So let's talk about some of the symptoms. Some of the symptoms can be feelings of apprehension and dread, or watching for signs of danger, or anticipating the worst. And of course, there's a lot more. And then some of the physical symptoms can be heart racing, like really fast, sweating, headaches, chills, an upset stomach. And I want to talk about what an anxiety attack is. So basically, an anxiety attack is sometimes also known as panic attacks. And there are episodes where there's an intense fear and panic. They occur sometimes, like without warning, and they come out of the nowhere. And sometimes there's like an obvious trigger as to why it happened, such as being stuck in an elevator, or something that can't be quite identified as easily as that. So some of the reasons or symptoms we can see as to when one is having an anxiety attack is when one is having trouble breathing, or they're choking, hyperventilation, hot flashes or chills, and those are some of the basic symptoms one has or experiences when having an anxiety attack. Now that we talked about what an anxiety attack is and what some of the symptoms are, and what anxiety is, I want to talk about anxiety and what types there are, such as the GAD, which is a generalized anxiety disorder. And basically that is when constant fears and worries distract you from your day-to-day activities, or if you're troubled by a feeling that something bad was going to happen. And technically, people with this GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, they feel anxious all the time, and sometimes they don't even know why. There's also panic attacks and a panic disorder. Basically, that is characterized by repeated unexpected panic attacks, as well as the fear of experiencing another episode of an anxiety or panic. And what that means is like you basically being aware that you already had an episode and you know that another one was gonna happen. Other examples of other anxiety disorders are the OCD and social anxiety disorder, and obviously there are a lot more. Now that we talk about that, I wanted to talk about some of the ways one can help, such as self-help and therapy and medicines. So one can do self-help by connecting with others, connecting with family and friends, people who make you feel loved and understood at that moment when you really need it the most. Another thing is managing your stress, engaging in stress relieving activities, meditation, coloring, reading, things like that. Or another thing can be practicing relaxation techniques. That's pretty self-explanatory, but it's basically an activity that makes you relaxed. Another technique of self-help is exercising regularly. That can take your mind off of your anxiety disorder, and that can help you cope with it in a different way. Another way to help yourself is through therapy, such as cognitive behavior therapy. And basically that is the type of therapy that helps you identify and challenge the negative thinking patterns and the irrational beliefs that fuel your anxiety. So it helps you find out the source and how to change it and challenge it and face it so that it doesn't affect you as much as it did before. There's another type of therapy, and it's called exposure therapy, and that encourages you to confront your fears and anxieties in a safe, controlled environment. So you are basically facing your fears, but in an area where you feel safe. And then in another article I read more ways of how one can help. Number one being access the risk, if there's any risk of suicide or harm, self-inflicted injury through the person that is suffering that anxiety attack. You want to know if they're causing themselves pain or if they're causing other people pain, and that's like the first thing to know. The second thing would be listening to the person, and not just any listening to them non-judgmentally. Don't try to judge them. Just listen to them and try to understand them and hear them out. And if they are questioning why you're there, make them see that you're there for them and that you're there to help them throughout their episode. Another tip to take into consideration is be patient and be engaged. When someone is having an anxiety attack or someone who has an anxiety disorder, it can be very hard to get them to speak at times, and it can be very challenging, and it can take a lot of energy away from you. And one of the things you can only do is be patient and make them feel engaged, and as well as you being engaged. The third thing would be give reassurance and information. Allow the person that you are helping to know that you're there to support them and that you understand them. And that can have a huge impact on them, regardless of whether you're aware of it or not. And that is honestly really true. Knowing that someone is there for you is a good thing. Number 4 would be encouraging them to look for professional help. And what I mean by this is giving them the idea to look for someone that can help them professionally, such as mental health professionals or physicians, psychiatrists, people like that are more experienced and they know more than like someone like us would know. As well as encourage other self-help strategies and being with one's loved ones and things like that. I wanted to share with you guys in an article I read a fact about a survey, and it's a survey done every year by higher education researchers. And basically in this research survey they conducted, and they basically asked college students throughout the survey if they're feeling overwhelmed with their amount of work they have. In 2016, 41% of the students said yes. In 2020, in the year 2000, sorry, 28% said yes, and in 1985, 18% said yes. As you can see, and how, as to what it was noted, it was increasing as the years passed by. And some of the reasons why they may feel this way is because they feel pressure to succeed, social media, expectations people have from them, things like that. So another thing that exists that can help is CBT, which is finding the fear of the child and changing it as to how it can actually help them. And then another thing is the SSRIs, which is antidepressants. There was a study that found that the combination of CBT and medication for 12 weeks yields a positive response in 80% of children with anxiety disorders. In fact, 65% of those children had no or minimal anxiety symptoms after 12 weeks of treatment. That doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. Of course, it only applied to those people that did it in the study. But to people out there that wanted to try this, they could actually try this, but seek professional advice. Another article I read stated that the GAD affects about 6.8 million people in the United States. And understand this, it's only the people in the United States. That's not half of the population in the world. And that is more than 3% of the country's adults. That is impressively a big amount of people. And as I continued reading in the article, I read that anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States. And it said that it affects around 40 million adults, about 1 in 5 people. And in a poll that was conducted by the American Psychiatric Association on 1,000 U.S. residents in 2017, they found that nearly 2/3 were extremely or somewhat anxious about health and safety for themselves and their families. So, what all this information and data and polls and surveys is providing is that anxiety has been increasing throughout the years. And that's not something we want to be increasing. We want to bring awareness to something like this and make sure that people know about it, and if they don't know much about it, that they can learn more about it. And I did research so that you guys can watch this video. It may be a little bit long, but I hope that it's worth it. And trust me, I hope I know it's gonna be worth it. I know it's a little bit challenging to talk about anxiety, which is why I did this video, as I said in my introduction, and I hope that you guys learned from it and that it helps you or someone that you know in the future, because anxiety is something that we don't want increasing, and it's something that we want to help others cope with, and we just want to express positivity in the world, and especially if it's affecting more millennials today than it was affecting generations in the past. And I hope that this video helps, and I hope that you stuck with me throughout this long video, and that if you're watching it, thank you for staying, and I hope you have a great day.